Now in this video, I'm going to show you how to build a fully functional chatbot like this using Chainlit, a Python library that allows you to write a few lines of code and deploy a production-ready AI chatbot with a sleek design like ChatGPT. By the end, you'll have your own AI chatbot up and running in just minutes. Let's get started. Now before we get into the code and see how Chainlit works, let me actually go through the nightmares we used to have to go through back in the days to build a simple chatbot with the most basic features. First thing is first, the thing that we would need to do is we would have to pick up some kind of a UI framework like React, Angular, or Vue.js, right? To build things like the input field, the message bubble, scrolling logic, because you want some messages to only appear after scrolling, and then spend hours and hours tweaking JavaScript and CSS for the responsiveness of the chatbot. This would honestly take about 2 to 3 weeks to only work with the front end. Then we would need to move on to the back end and build some kind of a back-end system using either Laravel or Django. And what we need to do is we would need to handle user messages. Also, we would need to process requests coming in from the front end, of course, and some kind of error handling techniques in there. And then after that, we would need to send and relay responses from the AI models API or OpenAI API. Then move on to build an API to make the front end and the back end talk to each other. Sounds fun, right? Totally the opposite. So annoying, about 2 to 3 more weeks just to build the backend. Then, of course, for you to build a real-time communication, you will need to go back to the front end and work with the WebSocket protocol. Then actually move on and come back to the back end and work with state management to manage some kind of a communication history and the user sessions. And finally, spend few more weeks debugging and testing. Just thinking about it makes me so mad. You new developers will never understand the pain that we went through. I hate y'all. I'm kidding. Now, anyway, let's move on and develop your fastest AI chatbot and see how Chainlit makes all of that thing of the past. Seriously, you're gonna love this. Now, I have my VS Code open in here. On the left, I have an empty folder that's called Chainlit Tutorial. I'll be uploading our code into the GitHub. You can find the link in the video description down below. So the first thing first, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open the terminal and I'm gonna install Chainlit using pip install Chainlit. Now, the second thing that we're going to do is create a file name called app.py. Now, in the app.py, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to import Chainlit. Then what we're going to do is we're going to write a basic code. Now, the code is actually listening to what the user put in the chatbot UI. So basically what it's doing is, it's, for example, if you put hi in the chatbot UI, which we're going to see, it will save your hi message inside of this variable. And then what it would do is we've already imported CL in here. So we're actually using a message class that's inside of CL, and we're simply passing the message that we received from the user, message.content, and appending the word receive in front of it. So whenever the user put hi in the chatbot, the only thing that he will receive is received : hi. Now let's run our Chainlit script. The way that we could do this is just put Chainlit command run our app.py, then -w. Of course, you're going to need to make sure that you are inside your project directory. So let's just say enter. And of course, by default, our chatbot will use localhost : port 8000. And as you can see on the right, we have our first chatbot ready by just writing few lines of code. As I've explained it before, let's just put something in here like hi, and the only thing that we're receiving right now is the word received : and then the message that we put in, which was hi. Now, congratulations, you've built your first chatbot. Now let's explain basic concept of Chainlit and its chat lifecycle. So whenever the user connects to our chatbot the first time like this, the session goes through lifecycle of events, which you can listen and plug in your code into. And we've already seen our first event, which is the onMessage event. So this line is basically called decorator, and it's a line that indicates that, for example, we want to fire this function every time the user puts in a message or text message inside our chatbot. So every time the user says, for example, hi, this one tells our code to fire off this function. Now let's look at another decorator. Now we want to fire some kind of a function right after the user. For example, let's just leave it for now so you can refresh. Now we want to fire a function right when the user comes into our chatbot and before doing anything else inside our UI. Now we could do this by using the onChatStart decorator. Now the onChatStart is this one will fire off before the user does everything inside our UI. Now what we could do this is to send in a message saying, hi, what can I do for you today? And by just saying Control S or Command S, you can see that right after the user comes into our chatbot app that it's firing, hi, what can I do for you today? Now, of course, there are other decorators, like for example, onStop decorator, which is a decorator that actually fires off, oh my bad, onStop, which is a decorator that actually fires off our function when the user disconnects from our chatbot. Or we could have, for example, onResume, onChatResume. And this actually fires off when our user disconnects from the current section and then comes back to the session. So you could actually have your function fire off when the user comes back to their session. Now, of course, you can plug in different codes. It depends on how complex your chatbot is. But I hope you understood the concept of the chat lifecycle. Now, let's just leave this one on chat start for now. Bam, you can see on the right. Now, let's move on to the second concept that I want to explain today, and it's starters. Now, starters are basically suggestions to help your users get started with your chatbot. And actually, you could see it in ChatGPT. These are called starters. Now, we could easily do this in our code by just defining set starters decorator in our code. And this is just a simple function, and as you can see in here, and the simple function have a decorator, and it returns a list of starters, and you could actually put your label in here, and you could put the message that you want to pass it to your model or to your chatbot, and of course the icon in here. Now I've put refine my email, explain in layman terms, fix grammatical errors, and debug my code. These are basically things that I personally use every day. Now of course, as you can see on the right, still showing the hi, what can I do for you today? But and it's doing this because it's actually firing off a message and it's passing the starter event. Now what we could do is, let me just remove this one for a second, save it. And as you can see, these are my starters, and since I don't have the icons in my current directory for now, the icons will not be appearing here, but you get the point. So right now, if I could just say find my email, you can see right now just puts received now. You correct and refine my email for clarity, then you could just put your email in there. So we will be connecting OpenAI model to our chatbot, then all of this will make sense. Now the third concept I want to explain is the concept of elements, right? So the main thing chatbots are used for is to just send and receive text, but sometimes we need them to send more than just a text to the user. Like we need them to send images or videos or PDFs. Now this is where the concept of elements come in. Elements are just some kind of a piece of content like image, PDF, or other elements that you can attach to your message and then send it along with a text to the user. Now what we could do this is, let's tweak our onChatStart function, and what we could do is let's add an image in here, and as you can see, we could just attach an image by simply accessing our CL, which is Chainlit library. Let's just say image, and of course the first thing is the path of the image, and the second thing is the name of the image, and the third thing is display inline, which I will be explaining it in a bit. Now after I do this, then I want to attach it with our message, and the way that I could do this is by simply put in elements equals and then list, you guessed it, then I'm going to pass the image variable, and let me make sure I have the hi.gif in my current directory. Yes, I don't have it, so let me just copy it for a second. Now here I've pasted my hi.gif picture. Now let me save my code. As you could see on the right, that is sent a picture with hi, what can I do for you today? And this is of course inside chat start function. Now of course you could do this with a PDF file, you could do this with other elements, you can check other elements that you could be able to attach. Now of course you have multiple display display options. For now, we used inline, which shows inside our text messages or attached with our text. Now, what we could do this is we can change this to the side. So you can see this. It attached some kind of a link, which is the name of the image, right? And if I click on this one, it shows on the right. Cool, right? Now, there's another option that we could use, which is display in page. Save this one for now. As you can see, it's the same as before, shows it as a link. We could be able to do, once you click it, it redirects you to a dedicated page where you could be able to show the picture. So you have all of those 3 display options that you can use. Let me just leave it as the inline. Now, the last concept I want to explain today is the concept of actions. Now, other cool features that Chainlit has is its ability for the chatbot to send clickable buttons, which can also be attached to the message and can be used to trigger some kind of a Python function whenever the user clicks, right? So let's try this out. And I want to send not only a picture in the first chat here, I want to also include a button with the picture. Let me go to our onChat start function, and what I could do after the image, define my action in here. And as you can see, this is the action of a list where I could include all of my action in here. I could define the name of the action. I could also define the icon of the action, and of course payload, the value, or the things that I want to pass down from this action, and the label. And after that, what I could do is I could go to our message class, and after the elements, what I could do is, guessed it, I'm going to say actions, and I'm going to say equals, and our variable was action. Bam. Let me save it, and this should show on our onChat. As you can see here, this says click me button, and I could just click on it. And of course, there is no callback for now. And of course, I can define my callback to be some kind of a custom Python function where I could be able to plug in another code that could be fired off every time the user clicks on the click me button. Now, of course, I can define the callback simply like this. I'm going to put it between the set starters and our onChat start function. Let me just paste it in here, clear out the way. As you can see, this one has the decorator action underscore callback, and it's referring to our action in here. And of course, what I could do is every time that the user clicks on this action, it fires off the onAction function and just prints payload. So notes in here, let's save it for now. So it prints out the action.payload. Now let's click on the button. As you can see, it prints out the payload in our command line interface. Now these are the basic cool function that Chainlit has, but of course it has so many other features which you can check it for yourself. Now let's give our chatbot a realistic touch by finally integrating it with OpenAI models, so you actually can move out from ChatGPT and build your own chatbot. Now the basic concept that I want to do is, let's come back to our on message event, and what I want to do is, before sending back a text to the user, what I want to do is in here I want to add some kind of a logic where pass the message that I've received from the user to OpenAI servers, to some kind of a model like 3.5 turbo model, and then after that receive a response from the OpenAI server, and then pass it back to the user so it could be able to show in our chatbot UI. Now first things first, what we're gonna do is, let me just start our thing and then install OpenAI library. Now I can simply do this by just saying pip install OpenAI. The second thing what I'm going to do is I want to import the OpenAI library, and from the OpenAI library I want to import a sync OpenAI, and after that what I want to do is I want to initialize a variable called client, and here let me just paste in, and of course you want to have your own API key, and I will be sharing how to apply for your API key down below. You can check the readme file inside the repo link that I will be sharing in the video description. Now let's move on from that. Of course, I'm not going to show you my API key. I want to add some LLM settings after that. Let me just paste it in here, and this is basically right after I connect to the OpenAI servers, the model that I want to use, the temperature, how creative I want it to be, of course the max total tokens I want it to use, and other settings. Of course. Now, right after I do this, what I want to do is go back to my main function, and what I want to do is add a streaming function. I want to access the client variable .chat.completions, and I want to create a connection. Now that connection, I want to pass a message, and of course the message list or the message dictionary have two elements. The first element is the role, so which is going to act as in the user message, so the role will be user, and the content will be message.content, which is the message that we've received from our chatbot user. And then what we're going to do is we want to stream. This streaming feature lets you is it doesn't have to wait for the whole response to come out from the OpenAI server, and what it do is it could just wait chunks after chunks. We've used ChatGPT before, but ChatGPT don't show you the text at once. You could see it generating word by word. So this is what lets you do that. Now what we're going to do is, instead of actually showing all of it to the user at once, we want to show it chunk by chunk. And instead of showing this message, we want to show an empty message first, and after that what we want to do is we want to keep looping through our stream results that we're saving in the stream variable, and then after that then we are streaming our results that we've got from the OpenAI servers back to our message. So instead of showing the complete message at once, we want to show it word for word as we are receiving from the OpenAI servers. Now after that, what we want to do is of course update our message, and of course since this one is something that we're gonna have to wait, we're gonna have to use the await keyword. Now after we do this, let's save our code. Now my bad, let's run our file again. Chainlit run I. Now start a new phase. Now let's just say I. Now of course it's showing an error that I haven't provided my API key, so let me provide my API key. I'm gonna cut this part so I don't want you to steal my API key. Now that I've pasted my API key, let me try it out. Bam, as you can see, it's talking to the GPT 3.5 Turbo. Let me just try it out. Can you send an email to John including the I won't be able to make it for our meeting on Friday. Now, bam, you can see you've already built your own ChatGPT. All of that in few minutes and with few lines of code. Now, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the video and finally be able to build your own chatbot in just minutes. Be sure to check out the GitHub repo link in the video description for a step-by-step tutorial and the code we used in this video. If you have any questions or need further assistance, feel free to leave a comment down below. Have a wonderful day and happy chatbot building.